Start recording. And we'll start recording on the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Therese, Apel, and Traci Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. Well, y'all, listen here. We are back. We've been gone for a couple of weeks, and now it's time for all the gang to be under one roof and in front of the microphones. Y'all, it is so good to have Therese Apel here with me with Dark Horse Press. Hey, Therese.
Hi, everybody. Good to be back.
The lovely
Missed y'all
redhead
last
in the
time.
room.
Yes.
The redhead in the room.
That's right.
Yes. And then we've got Traci Lee here with Your Country, U.S.
96.3.
96.3. You just say it so much better than I do.
I say it in my
Traci.
sleep. I'll be quite honest.
I bet you do.
Answer your
do.
personal calls.
I do. Have you ever done that when people call and you're like, U.S. not, wait, hello?
Yeah.
You forget, yeah.
Would I have it? Yes. And then I've got Daniel Anderson here with us from Audio Alchemy Productions. He is our producer of all things. And we were just talking about how he's got the beauty filters on us today. I'm actually blonde. Traci is the redhead in the room, and Therese is the brunette. But you wouldn't know the difference because of all the filters on us today. No, it's really.
Yeah. It's not actually filters, though, because, like I said, I would look better than this if it was filters. It's been a rough week. So.
No, you ladies
That's what I
look
do.
incredible just the way you are. What you see on the screen is exactly how these ladies look. There's no lie about that, people.
Tip your waiter after we leave today.
Right. That's right.
He's such a good guy. Thank you, Daniel. And if you are one who would like to have your own podcast, you need to give Daniel a shout out. He will take care of you just like he does us. So we certainly appreciate him. And we appreciate that you are back again because it's been a minute since we've been here together. We try to do these every other week. And with our schedules and, of course, sicknesses going around, it's been a little bit more of a challenge. But here's the good news. We're back from Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Everybody have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was really good. Yeah, just low key with family. So it was fun. My sister and brother-in-law left to go to Oxford straight from, because the Egg Bowl was on Friday.
That's right.
This year. So, but it was fun. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Good. And now here we are going into the Christmas holidays. We've got more office gatherings together. We've got more family gatherings together. And, just this time of the year puts us in front of people that we may not see eye to eye on. And when we were talking about this topic earlier today, I posted it on my Facebook page, and Sweet Thelma said that she loved the part, and you're actually the one who brought this up, Traci. The holidays put us around family and coworkers that we may not agree with, and we're going to talk about maneuvering these moments without going to jail.
Yeah.
Thelma commented and said, yep, I have to let Jesus fix it because if I fix it, I am going to jail.
100% Thelma, you're my girl. Yeah, 100%.
So it does put us in front of people that, maybe we've got some history with. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, especially this has been an election year. Let's just go ahead and dive right in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's been an election year, and people have very strong opinions about their candidates.
Uh-huh.
And they feel as though they themselves are responsible for representing them, and they are going to goad people that may not believe the same way or try to talk about a point that they're very passionate about that may be in opposition to somebody that you're supporting. And it's just a hot button topic. So,
Well, interesting that you say that because Betty Clark just posted on here. Betty was, I think, already ahead of you on this one, Traci. Betty says, whatever you do, don't get off on politics.
Right.
yeah.
And see, I think totally the opposite. I think one of the reasons why we are in the state of disrepair that we are in as a society is because we stopped talking about religion and politics at the dinner table, and we stopped hearing other people's comments. And I don't mean that I have to necessarily agree with their stances, but you kind of get in your own little world and you think that you're the only one who's right.
Well, you said hearing
Oh,
other
yeah.
people's
Yeah.
hearing other people's comments because we don't hear, we don't listen. We're too busy trying to say what we want to say
Mhm.
and what our next point is and why I'm right, that we don't open up and listen to where another person is, another perspective. You know, you can disagree with somebody and never tell them.
That is true.
I do
Well,
it all the time.
And not only that, I mean, the fact is that you're going to have people, everyone in the world is not going to agree with you. And for me, the part that I don't understand about the world anymore is I was raised that we can have an open conversation.
Mhm.
You know, that we can, like, if you have one belief and I have another, we can talk about the contrasts and that kind of thing.
Yes.
To me, that's actually an interesting conversation to have. There doesn't need to be an attack. It's a trade of information. But that's what's lost in today's world in
Yeah.
so many ways.
No, I see that as well. And there have been times where I have listened to other people and having these types of conversations, and it may not change my mind, but it has given me the opportunity to hear a different side. And I've walked away from the conversation, think, okay, well, I could see where you would think that or where you would believe that. And some of the greatest conversations that I have is with my oldest, who is 21. She is very much a free thinker, but she's extremely conservative. And sometimes she will give me another angle on a topic, and I'll think, you know what? I don't agree with this particular line of thought, but I can see where
Right.
that would make sense. So, such good conversations to be able to be had when you don't agree with somebody on religion or politics, and not necessarily that we're talking about that specifically today, but we all have those coworkers and family members who have said something either last year or 50 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it still stings and it still hurts. And you know that you're going to be seeing them at either the family gathering or the office gathering. And you're just like,
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
I don't know. When I started tacking on weight, like in my early 20s, and I remember my great grandmother, we went over to her house and we were sitting in her living room, and she was very, like, always had on her pearls, you know, makeup always done, always had on her bright lipstick. And she was so flabbergasted at how much weight I had put on that she was sitting there in her living room, and I'm just sitting there talking to her, just like whatever. And she said, I just, you know, clenching her pearls. And she's like, I just don't know. I don't know where you got all that fat from. I mean, she just went on and on about it. And I finally just looked at her and I said, it was on sale at TWL.
Oh, stop.
That's where I got it. And my brother and mother were just mortified that this whole conversation was happening. And I know she probably never got over it. I don't know. We weren't super close, but you just have a choice to make when somebody comes at you with something like that. Am I going to pick this up and be offended by it? Or am I going to be like, bless your heart?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, but I don't have room in my quiver to put what you just put down. So I'm just going to go on about my way and just let you live with that unpleasantness, whatever that is. And it could be the same thing because I'm perpetually single. You know, that used to be a thing. And my grandmother used to, other side of the family, used to always come to my defense and be like, it's better to be single than wish you were. I mean, you know, she was always, you know, just a champion of who I was. But I mean, it's a lot to navigate, especially if you are like your daughter is in your early 20s, and now you're going home and you have siblings, and there are boxes that you check, and you have to check the boxes, and you don't even have the boxes in sight. And you know, Daniel and I were talking about this before y'all got here about how you feel like almost you turn that internally on you, and like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have these boxes? What am I not doing? And I feel like sometimes the enemy, unbeknownst to the people that we are with, uses those comments to kind of goad us a little bit and hurt us.
Yeah.
And we have an option to react or not to react. And believe me when I tell you, there are times I thought I was going to have an aneurysm because I did not say what I wanted to. But there's so much power in silence, and you completely take every weapon of the enemy away. Does it hurt any less? No. Does it change the outcome from what it could have been had you reacted poorly? Yes, it does. And it's a practice thing, it's a situation thing, it's a minute by minute thing. It's not like you can make up your mind you're going to go into this and just be like, I'm going to do this, because there's a way that you do it too. And Southern women know this, that you can say a lot without saying anything at
Yes.
all and start a whole fight, with your expression. Because you got to watch your face too. I'm still working on that.
Like when we say, "Oh, bless their hearts."
Yeah, or when somebody says something and you're just like, and like when you do the double blink, it's you're
Yeah.
either fisting to punch them or the Lord is holding you back.
Yeah.
Like those are the two things
Yeah.
that happen. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's important to remember as women that, like you said, being Southern women, there are so many nuances in the
Yeah.
ways that we say things. But I had a grandmother that was very outspoken and had no filter also. And I had dated a guy who was pretty abusive for a long time in college. And finally, when I had broken up, the whole family rejoiced. He was very attractive, however, and I'd taken him home for multiple things. And my grandmother did hate him. But at some point, when we were all home for a holiday, she made the comment, well, that last one, you ran him off and he was dead attractive. And I just remember thinking about all the things about that made no sense to me. Why would she say that? Why? I mean, like obviously that was hurtful. And I didn't know what to do. And I just said, I didn't run him off. It's like I didn't know what to say. And, and then it was like, she said, well, you're going to be cold from this for a very long time. I just can't imagine how it's going to get any better. And at that point, I thought, what? That's somebody that I love saying that to me. Like, what do
Yeah.
you do? And I didn't handle it well. I mean, I took that to heart. That was a wound for a long time. Now I can look back and see her disappointment in my life was not disappointment in me. It was disappointment in what had happened to me.
Yeah.
So sometimes in those situations, you have to, it's hard to remember, but you have to consider the source and their own sadness, because she and my grandfather had met at in college and married early and had lived forever and ever. And they had this beautiful love story. I think she wanted that for us and just couldn't understand why it never took,
That is such a good point. Can you repeat that again?
Which part?
Well, the fact that she wasn't sad for you, but she was sad for the experiences, I guess, that she had, the positive experiences that she had, that she wanted to see you experience.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it, because I know that I have family members and friends that I look at and I think, oh gosh, I just wish it could be better for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sensitive enough to know that that's, even if I'm saying it in the best possible way, the last thing I need to say to my friend is, I'm disappointed in your life.
Yeah.
Instead, you got to find a way to support them and be there for them and whatever. But your opinion on what's happening to them is almost never warranted unless they say, gosh, this sucks. And you can say, gosh, I'm here with you and it does suck. I'm so sorry. But that unsolicited, you ran him off and he was dead attractive and now your life's going to be terrible. I don't know how it's going to get any better. No. But it took me years to realize that wasn't, Therese, you're the worst. It was, I'm very sad about what happened.
Yeah. Well, I come from a very large family. My mom was one of 8, my dad one of 5, and so it seems like we're having a family reunion every other month.
Right.
So when you have large families, you're going to always have the different personalities there too. And many times when you make a different decision in your life than other people in your family have made, there's also that headbutting going on, that maybe you took a different road than this relative did. And because you took a different road, they may see you as a goody two-shoes, or, oh, everybody loves you because you did this and I did not experience that. Those are hard moments to navigate through as well, just because you made different decisions or you made different choices than they may have made.
I think it's important too, though, to remember, if we're talking about family or if we're talking about a social group, you have to remember the reasons that, okay, if we're thrown together here, throughout the Bible, it tells us to, turn the other cheek, to avoid conflict, across the board. It's telling us to maintain peace.
Right.
And I don't think that means lay down and be a doormat, but I do think it means to find proactive ways to enforce love.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking recently, and I'm not going to get into the details because it would kind of put more out there that needs to be. There's somebody that has a big beef with me, and has talked to a lot of people about it based on some things that I had covered in the media. They felt like my coverage of this story was a betrayal to them and their friends, and they were angry. And it had become a joke among others in this group about how much they really didn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw them the other day. They walked over, they shook my hand. They were, how's it going? First time they have made any communication in 2 years, probably. I mean, maybe that long. It's been a while. And so I just, pretended like nothing was going on. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you, whatever. Later on, I went to that person and I asked him for a favor. Because one thing that if you read up on, some psychology, asking somebody for a favor, for some reason, it puts them just a little bit more in your court. And to me, it's like, do I need this person in my life? No. Do I care that they don't like me? Not really. But on the other hand, there was a time that there was a good bond there. And there was a time that, that this is somebody that I had respected. So in the end, is it worth rebuilding that bridge? Well, the Bible tells us to love one another, to maintain the peace, that kind of thing. So to me, it was like, well, if this works, like the scientists say that it does, then maybe we start to repair this. I mean, he made the first effort by saying hello. If it doesn't work, well, we're right back where we started. And it didn't hurt me at all, to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't ask him for a big favor. It was just like, hey, what do you think about this? And he responded positively, and then we went our separate ways. I don't know if it works or not, but to me, it was worth the olive branch.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And it's important for us to see that, you just said it, that Jesus says that we're to love everybody. He doesn't say that we've got to love being around everybody.
Right.
Are you picking up what I'm putting
Oh,
down?
I'm 100% picking it up. Yeah, I am. I tend to be a cutter outer. Like I will out, and it does not faze me at all. And that's not a really good place to be either. I think that if you get to a certain place with people and I'm like, all right, I'm done. I heard somebody say, it was a poet, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So when you're indifferent towards something or a situation, it means you don't even care enough to have a response. And my heart goes there real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. And that's a defense mechanism from being hurt, I'm sure. But I do the opposite of that, maintaining peace and trying to do an olive branch. I'm like, no, you're dead to me. Like, I don't need it. I don't need you. I don't need anything. And that is the other wrong way to do things, so it's big on you for doing that.
Well, I think the thing is, like, do I always do that? No. No. I think if he hadn't reached out to shake my hand and whatever, for whatever reason he did it, I don't know, then I might not have. Probably wouldn't have. So it's not like I was the bigger person. It was like I saw an opportunity and just said, okay, let's try this. But, so I guess it's interesting when you think about these different aspects because so many of them are so individual. Like it's easy to cut out somebody that didn't matter anyway. But that betrayal from someone that you loved very much, all of a sudden there's so much more that goes into that. And when you cut them out, it may not be an indifference thing. It may be a, no, you don't deserve to be in this space, and that kind of thing. And that, that makes things a whole different ballgame. So when you're talking about, that rift that's already there, it may be something as simple as like we don't disagree on politics, or it could be a mean grandma, or it could be somebody's been talking about you behind your back for 2 years or whatever like that. And each thing is individual, but God calls us to handle each one in the way that he would.
Yeah.
And that's hard to call.
When
The
do we
Bible
get
gives
to
us a
the
little bit.
table flipping part?
Yeah, that's the part that Traci
That's-
wants to talk
yeah,
about.
I want to talk about that part. I want to talk about that. And, I know I shouldn't, but the human part of me is always like, oh, you want to go here? Because I'll make you cry. I mean, don't be fool. I'm mean. And that's why I need Jesus, because I'm mean.
I do not see that side of you at all.
Believe me, there are people that have seen it, and I'm not proud of it. But I'll use it if I need to. And I'm not proud of that either. But I mean, this is why I think grace is so important. Because I saw something online the other day, like I'm a lot nicer than I could be, and people aren't appreciative enough
posted
of that.
that. I
saw
posted
that.
that.
Did you
Yes,
post
that
that?
was me.
Okay, Therese posted it. Yeah, so I don't know, and that's not something me being like, look at me, I'm mean, brr, but it is my first response is I'm like, oh, you want to try to hurt me? You won't win this fight. You won't. and that's awful to be that way too. I don't like that part of me, but it is there.
And I was thinking about this as both of you are saying it. What do I do? I have a tendency that you won't know whether I don't like you or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
be.
I've seen that.
I'm going to be a super. You have seen that, haven't
Yes,
you?
yes, I have.
I'm going to be as super kind and as gracious as I can possibly be, and you won't know whether I'm hurt. You won't know whether I'm mad. You won't know any of that. So, and it's not that I'm being fake, because I have been accused of, oh, well, you're just being fake because you're not being who you really are.
Yeah.
No, I have to use that as my self-control mechanism if I can, because I don't want to I don't want to let the anger or the tears or the hurt show. So it's actually easier for me to be kind.
Yeah.
The other thing that I will do is not, bow up like what you were saying, Tracy, but I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet, if we're at the dinner table or family reunion or whatever, or at the Christmas party with coworkers. I'll just be quiet. And I think there's a whole nother sermon there, the theology of being quiet.
Yeah.
That we could talk about at another time, but I'll try to keep myself silent so that way I don't say anything that I shouldn't. I'm not saying that I'm right. It's just that's how I deal with the different personalities that I come across.
Well, you look at Jesus. I mean, there were times that's exactly what he did. Especially when he was under attack, when he was on trial, that kind of
Right.
thing. That was basically, they said something. If he answered, it is as you say, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what a time to be defensive and angry. You're the son of the God of the universe, and you're being accused of all these things by these people who, I mean, sometimes my chagrin comes from like, who are you to say that to me, or say that about me, or act like that towards me, or whatever. But the fact remains that still, yeah, like you said, maybe the best thing is to be quiet. I'm coming into today with a new perspective. Of course, y'all know my dad passed away. That's why I missed the last podcast, was because he was pretty sick and I wanted to be there with him. And he passed away the day after Thanksgiving. But what it has done for me, I mean, so many things change. Your life changes, your whole psyche changes. But one of the things that has become super clear to me is who is worth the internal drama. Like when something's going on, who is worth the reaction? Because there are people, and I posted something about this on Facebook, there are people that I have been pouring into for years in my life that there's no return. Like I'm just doing it because I feel like they hold a place in my life, or I feel like, I mean, sometimes proximity bonds you in a way that like makes no sense. And then one day you stop and you go, why am I here?
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
realize like, there's no point. And nothing resets that more than like, I mean, that was my last parent. That was the only man I've ever been able to fully trust.
Right.
The only person who ever stood in the gap and protected me as a single woman my whole life. Like he set the bar for so many things, and all of a sudden he's gone and I've lost this buffer. And so all of a sudden you have to wonder who is worth having in your space. And you see that. So to me, this whole topic is different today than it might have been 2 weeks ago, because you know what? Are you worth my flipping a table? Well, let me think about this for a minute. A lot of people that 2 weeks ago are not anymore. A lot of people that I wouldn't have thought are, because you know what? They've been here with me through this thing. So to me, it's, this whole subject is a journey for each of us, I think, through the years.
Yeah. Wow, that's heavy.
So good.
That's
so
heavy. Martha said we should all show respect and agree to disagree sometimes, because God made us all different, and
Yep.
He did, and He gave us all different personalities. I was looking at the story, and I was reading it actually just yesterday in Luke 15 about the prodigal son. I mean, everybody's heard that story, that parable, if you grew up in the church. And how excited the dad was to see the son, the prodigal, come back. And I began to think the older son, the older son had the same thing that the younger son had, the prodigal,
Mm-hmm.
the wealthy dad, anything that he needed at his disposal. But yet, when the prodigal came back, where was the older son? The Bible actually says that he was actually in a field. He was off in a field. But I wondered what would have happened, what would have changed about that story if the older son would have seen what he already had at his disposal. And that was he had a loving father who obviously protected him, who gave him anything that he needed. And why were his feelings so upset that when little brother comes back, oh, you haven't killed the fatted calf for me. I've been here the whole time. And that was one thing that the father says is, everything that I have is yours. And it got me thinking deeper about that story and how it could have been differently if when the father saw his prodigal son coming towards him and how excited his heart got, what would have happened if the older son was there and said, "Here he comes, Dad"?
Yeah.
Because the older son would have really realized, there's nothing that I need. There's nothing that I need. You have provided all for it. So I'm happy that little brother is coming back. But instead, his mind went in the opposite direction of, well, what about me? I've been here the whole time. I didn't leave. That's kind of deep too. And when I think about the coworkers and the family members that we're around during the holidays that we often butt heads with or that we see things differently with, or those people, is so-and-so going to be there?
Yeah.
Y'all know, you
Yeah.
know exactly what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. And yeah, they're going to be there too. Oh, I just don't know if I can handle another holiday with them around. But instead, if we took that attitude of, you know what, I've got everything that I need. I am at peace. So yeah, I can handle being around that family member or that coworker because I am at peace.
I think we have to take it back to some of the discussions we've had about offense as well, because to go back to one of my favorite things to point out, the word for offense in Greek is scandalon, which also means trap. Basically, when you take offense, you are stepping in that trap. Now I have to be angry. Now I have to be indignant. This is selfish. This is focused on me. This is all about my feelings. But if you choose to deflect that, it was on sale at TWL, something like that.
First of all, the simple
Yeah.
fact that you even know what TWL is hilarious.
Yeah, well, it was Prentice, Mississippi.
Okay.
They have a triangle, a Sonic, and a TWL. That was it.
This is
Right.
great.
Yes.
Anyway, back to you,
Yes.
Therese.
But yeah, so you deflect it or
Yeah.
you just choose to love. I read an article the other day. I wish I could remember more examples, but it was things that you say to people when they say something ugly to you. And one of them that I kind of liked was just, do you know how that sounded? Because it stops everything and it makes them say again what they said or explain to you. Or you could say, why did that seem like a good thing to say to me? And then let them be the one that looks like a donkey. Instead of it being like, oh my gosh, how's she going to react? Just be like, did you know how that sounded when you said that? Did you mean for that to be hurtful? And then don't let it change your demeanor at all, but put it back on them to have to figure out how to navigate this now because they're the one that opened the door.
Well, we must take a moment to thank one of the businesses that makes this Y'all Listen Here podcast possible.
That's right. We're talking about complete exteriors. They
they
are just the greatest. We've known these folks for a while. If you have leaks or damage, we have all these storms. There's we've gone through the weather like we have so many times this year, and all the time you've got debris, you've got roof damage. Complete exteriors needs to be in your speed dial because they're more than a roofing contractor. They are based here in this community. They're also in Hattiesburg and Gulfport. They were established in 2007 and basically basically, these are people you could run into in the grocery store. These are local folks who care about what happens to you because they're your neighbors. They are your contractor for all your roofing commercial, residential, roof issues. And you can call them today at 601-326-2755. That's 601-326-2755 or visit CompleteExteriorsMS.com.
Oh, we love them. Thank
sure
you
do.
again for being our sponsor. Back to the topic, I was actually looking at a couple of scripture that I thought about. In this whole topic of how I believe it's Romans 18:15 that says, "But as for you, you live in peace."
Mm-hmm.
But many times when we get together with these family members or these coworkers, we're not at peace.
Right.
Our hearts, our inner man is already worked up
Right.
about the gathering because of a previous interaction or because of previous words that have been said. So when I look at that scripture, again, it's the implied you. As it is for you, you live in peace with others. It's kind of like being a mom, and how many times have my kids said, well, they did this, or she said this, or he said that, but what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And so as a mom, I'm always having to bring it back to you be responsible for yourself and your actions. And that's not always the easiest thing to do.
No. I know for myself, it's harder sometimes to rein myself in than, somebody else, but it's the right thing to do. And you were talking about the prodigal. To leave it to Jesus to tell a story where we relate to both characters.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes.
Both characters. We've all been in the pig pen and needed to come back to forgiveness and grace. And we've all been, how dare you? Do you know the things that I've sacrificed and you think you can just walk in here and get it again?
Yeah.
I mean, we've both been on both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
So how you navigate it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, and Jesus told us, what he wants us to do, how he wants us to handle it is go to the other person in private and try to resolve that. And so if you've ever tried to do that, that is so hard because, you want to sit down and be like, hey, can we hash out what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're combative, then I don't know. I don't like conflict. I mean, I'm not scared to stand up, but if you push me to the point where I'm going to have conflict with you, well, I'm a redhead. So,
but you're not from Rankin County, though.
I live there.
You
but
live
I'm
in
not
there.
from there.
Yeah, you live there.
Yeah.
It's on you.
So, yeah. I mean, I'll flip a table, but it
Right.
takes me a very long time to get there.
Yeah.
Once you've gotten me there, I'm in trouble because I'm going to act a fool. But if you go to somebody in, just the two of you and you talk about it, it can either go really well or it can go really badly. But the fact is, you made that effort. It is no longer on you. The conflict is no longer your problem.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if it goes like really bad though? What happens if you try to have that conversation and immediately they're on the attack or they start bringing all this stuff up? How do you even back out of that? I mean, is it almost just like a point where you're like, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you even, what happens then?
Oh, I've been there.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think we've all been there.
Yeah. And that's the hard part. Because, of course, your flesh wants to engage and make it a full-on battle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if you wanted, the only time that I have experience with doing it right, basically, I just sat there and let them have their say and then said, I didn't realize you felt like that. I just want you to know this is not something that I ever wanted to happen between us. If we can mend this, I want to. I'll give you the space you need to figure that part out. I'm here if you want to find me later. Now, there did come a point through the years, and this took a while, but through the years, there came a point where I realized that person is not an issue to me anymore. Yeah, I tried to fix it. They didn't want to. Time has passed. I'm done. If they come back, I'm going to be like, thanks. I'm glad you're doing good, but I don't need you back in my space, because while I made the effort, while I did everything, I feel like the way that I'm proud that I did, that's not somebody I want back in my life now that I have the perspective of distance. So just to kind of absorb the blow and then say, sorry you feel like that. I'm here if you want to do your side of fixing this, I consider it fixed from my side, period.
Okay, let me ask a question here from somebody that kind of lived this scenario. What if there is somebody that is hurting a member of your family and they feel like God is telling them, I have to be nice to them. I have to try to build a relationship with them. You can see it from a completely different perspective. You know this is never going to work. It is completely toxic. It is not doing anything but hurting the person that you love. But they are so bent but that's what God wants us to do. And all they do is set themselves up to get hurt. How do you rectify that with what God wants you to do and how you do the self-preservation? Like, where is the line in that, especially when it's family?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you draw that line and be like, no, you can't come into my family anymore and hurt us? Or to the point where you're like, no, I have to keep extending grace. How do you know how to navigate that?
I think you extend grace at the same time drawing boundaries. Like, because this is something that's probably addressed pretty well with, some of the AA stuff, when you're talking about, addicts or things like that. Because I have been that person that keeps saying, but it's, God told us to forgive 70 times 7,
Yeah.
who keeps forgiving the toxic person over and over again. And I have friends who have, in one case, said, we love you, but we don't love him.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to see you. We don't want to see him. And in that, did I take the hint? No, I had to walk my path. And one thing my dad always said when I'd, gripe about somebody is we each have our own path to walk. And some places our paths are right there next to each other, so we have a say. And if you have a say and that causes your path to diverge, well, if God means to bring you back, he will. And that's such a matter of trust. It's so hard to say, well, I know this is going to make you mad, but I feel like that person in your life is poisoning all of us. Because when that was said to me, I pretty much dumped everybody in my life in one case, and then it was months down the road, I realized, oh my gosh, I've isolated to the point that I have nobody. And then there's a breakup, and then what do I do?
Yeah.
But I learned from that. And the people that cut me out of their lives because I cut them out, most of them took me back,
And my thoughts are very similar, except I'm thinking, again, grace upon grace upon grace. Because I think of how many times I've done that to the Lord, where, I pull away, but then I get close again. But then I pull away, and then I sin, and then I'm embarrassed, and, all those types of things. But going back to how do you deal with those types of people, apologizing, and then also realizing that some people I have to love from afar.
Yeah.
Some people are those that don't need to be close to you in proximity, whether that is physically or whether that is emotionally, but still loving them from afar and still praying for them profusely. That's the only way that I've been able to deal with that over the years. I can show someone better than I can tell them.
Yeah.
And I can show them grace and I can show them forgiveness sometimes better than I can tell them.
I feel like God honors that prayer for someone who's hurt us too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you will sit before God and say, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I don't want this person in my life, I want them far away from me, but I want your guidance and your hand and your protection on them. I believe he pays extra attention to that, because that's a sacrifice on your part. Because we've all had that person that we just don't want to even pray for, you know?
So true. And I think of times as a mother when my kids would be disobedient and we'd have to have that talk as to, did you think about what you did? What were you thinking when you did that? And at that point where I had to have a little bit of a separation, because as a child and as a child of God, when you know that you've done wrong, the simple fact when your parent, won't pay you any attention, oh my goodness, that would just hurt my feelings more than anything.
Mine too.
And so there have been times when I've had to tell my kids, I'm disappointed, I'm upset, I still love you, but I don't need to be in the same room with you right now for just a little bit. Let's just take a little break.
Look, I was such a drama queen in high school. Yes, I was. It was bad. There was a time in my senior year that I don't even remember what all the things were, but I was just this tornado of drama all the time. And Mom decided she was going to go to Nashville and stay with her mother. And I just remember it was like, Mom's going to Nashville, not a big deal, until at some point while she was gone, during the first week she was gone, Dad let it slip that she just needed a break from me and my sister.
Oh.
And it was like, wait, what? You know? And all of a sudden it's like, wait, Mom needs a break from us. Why? And Dad's like,
Yeah.
I need a break from you too, but one of us has to be here, you know, because clearly y'all can't exist on your own, you know. But I think she was gone 2 weeks. And I remember talking to her during that first week, and I said, when are you coming home? And she said, I don't know. And like, she had not walked out on us, but like, in the best way a good mom can be like, I'm away from you right now. Stay there. I'm going 8 hours away from you. You know, and I think about that all the time. Like, I still think about that because I'm not somebody who has guilt or who has remorse or whatever like that. I tend to think that, like, I'm forgiven, let it go. God's moved on, so have I. That's one that I still think about.
But you know what? Even then, your mother's love for you and your
Yes.
sister
Yeah.
did not change.
No, and that was the part that
That's good.
made it so important was I had hurt her to the point that she needed away from me, but I know how much she loved me, so that made even more of a point.
Yeah, she loved
know?
you from afar, even if she was 8 hours away for the time that she needed for that short period. Wow. I mean, y'all, this is interesting.
Yeah. This is what I call like a dirty conversation. You
Yeah.
know, not the kind where you got to be over 18. Daniel looked over here.
Daniel's eyes were like,
Yeah.
what?
But it's messy. Maybe that's a better word. It's
Yeah.
just, it's a very messy conversation because it's real life and it's the ugly part
Yeah.
of real life. And this is why I love y'all so much, is being able to just have these conversations and live this part of life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think that for me, what's important about this podcast and about our friendships is just being able to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and be like, I've done it wrong. I've been heartbroken. You know, everything has been terrible at times. And sometimes I've had some astounding victories.
Yeah.
And not have to feel like I can't say those things to y'all. I love that
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
I wrote down a couple of things just in this whole topic that we need to remember that forgiveness doesn't equal trust.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
so good.
It's okay.
So good.
It's okay to forgive other people
Mhm.
and still not trust them. And it's the act of releasing the other person from our own need of vengeance. And we've got to be careful to guard against our own pride and our own proud judgments because they may have made a different decision in their life than you did. Or because, and here's where I have to check myself, is it's so easy for me to forgive other people that I don't understand how other people can't forgive me. Does that make sense?
Oh, I do the same
100%.
thing. Yeah.
So I have to really check the pride filter there in my own life. So being careful to guard against being prideful concerning someone else who is lost or broken, because I was there before, and to prepare myself, educate myself regarding my own healing and my wholeness, so that way I'm ready to help the others when I see that prodigal son coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so preparing my own healing, preparing my own humble heart. So when I see that person coming back into the fold, whether they're back into the family, back into my life, back into being a coworker again, that I'm prepared and I'm excited about seeing them again instead of, here they come again. God has raised many inner healing and deliverance ministries that create powerful resources to help us in moving forward in our own brokenness. What are y'all's parting thoughts?
I just think this is so timely with the holidays here and maybe dealing with people that are challenging, but we're tired on top of everything else and stressed out because of the season. And to just remember where it says in Ephesians, we battle not against flesh and blood, that it's always the principalities of this present darkness and the things that we can't see. And to just remember that you fight more on your knees than with your hands, Tracy. So just to remember that moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Therese?
I think for me, it's about just remembering not to drink the poison. The only reason that offense that's offered or that rift that's between you is about you is if you allow it to be. If you decide to let that thing stand in the way of your love for that person. And even if they are coming at you hard, you can still answer in love and you can still stand in love without having to be a hard target. Just absorb it. Just know that God is doing something with that person based on your response. And you'd rather it not be that you're letting God look anything other than like the forgiving, loving, all powerful, God of the universe that He is.
Ooh, once again, we can show grace, we can show mercy, we can show forgiveness better than we can tell.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been to church today.
Yep.
It's not even Wednesday night. It's
Nope.
not Sunday night either.
No, I feel like I need to go to church.
Well, guess what? Sunday's coming.
It is.
That's right.
We hope that y'all have been encouraged today, and we can't wait to share with you again in another episode of Y'all Listen Here.
Y'all listen. If there is one